As a powerful Eastern mermaid, Mizuo woke up as a young interstellar mermaid. He is still a pitiful person without parents, background, or savings. This made Mizu, who was sleeping on a pearl bed and covered in chiffon, unable to bear it. She is serious about making money. The quickest way to earn money is to participate in live streaming programs. She slapped her chubby tail and made it to the finals. The little mermaid is skilled and courageous, able to freely navigate through cracks in space. I almost went crazy with a group of kids on a live program. Outside the camera, several prominent figures with heads and faces began to compete openly and secretly. The little mermaid is so powerful and cute, it looks like my little one. What's wrong with different varieties? Whoever dares to oppose will be crushed to death. Interstellar audience. Where did a group of robbers come from? Even if you are the Emperor of the Empire, the Speaker of the Alliance, the Grand Marshal of the Star Realm, and the richest person in the entire Star Realm, you cannot deprive us of the right to be mothers of Yun. Novel keywords. After the live broadcast became popular, Zai became a favorite of all interstellar clusters without pop-ups. After the live broadcast became popular, Zai became a favorite of all interstellar clusters. Download the full text. After the live broadcast became popular, Zai became a favorite of all interstellar clusters. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Opening 3 No Mermaids. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Opening 3 No Mermaids Our Domain, 13th Planet, Sea District Kindergarten. The atmosphere today is very different from usual. All the children gathered together to watch the live broadcast promotion on the light screen about the once every 10 years, aimed at children from all over the star region. Mizu leaned against the edge of the pool, her short and chubby little tail occasionally tapping the pool wall, and she was also watching the live broadcast. On the round and smooth little face, there was a heavy expression that was not suitable for her age. She woke up 10 days ago. Then he discovered that he had transformed from an Eastern mermaid to an interstellar mermaid. Still a brat who can't do anything. The little mermaid was only half a year old when she was sent as an orphan, and it has been almost 4 years now. Originally, the orphan mermaid didn't know what had happened. She was born with poor development and still couldn't speak. It wasn't until 10 days ago, after Mizuo woke up in this body, that the little mermaid made its first sound. The conditions of the Tsu Academy are not good, and they can only have enough to eat, wear warm clothes, and receive basic education. Once you reach adulthood, you must leave and support yourself. Before, as an oriental shark and one of the sea lords, she slept on a pearl bed and was covered in a shark veil quilt. She was born to control the waves and drive sea beasts. But now, the only small pool that the Ciau Yuan can provide her with is less than 5 square meters. She has observed these 10 days. It's not that the orphanage mistreated them, it's that they really don't have money. Their orphanage is a bit different from other orphanages. As long as they have talent, the teachers in the school will pay them extra tuition fees, hoping that the children who leave this charity institution can have a better life. And the additional expenses for this part are earned by teachers using their break time to work. Miyu, what are you thinking? Do you want to participate in the live broadcast? A chubby little pig with its forelimbs resting on the pool wall, its silly head tilted, and its European-style double eyelids could envy a group of women to death. Zhu, I want to register. Mizu lifted her round little chin. As mentioned above, if selected, you will receive a notification fee of 10,000 yuan. If you can enter the top 100 out of 10,000 contestants, you will receive a prize of 100,000 yuan. Mizu still slightly restrained his words. Her goal is to break into the top 10. Of course, saying this goal can only make people laugh. After all, the doctors in the hospital have already determined that she has no talent. There are no less than 1 billion children in the entire star domain who are eligible to register. Each willing cub, either themselves or their family members, submits an application in the StarNet backend, which is then reviewed by a specialized agency, and finally the eligibility for participation is issued in the back end. It will take a total of half a month to confirm eligibility through registration. Mizu, as a rare mermaid cub, was selected. When she went to participate in the program, the entire charity institution was praying for her. The live broadcast of the program is on an unmanned star next to the 9th planet. 10,000 cubs were dropped onto the planet, and after living for 180 days, airships would come to pick them up and take them home. Of course, there is also a chance to leave in the middle. But if you exit midway, you will be judged as a failed challenge. As a mermaid cub, Mizu will not be shamelessly thrown into the desert by the production team. But where she left off, the conditions were considered very bad. A small lake with a water pollution level of 3, lacking food and drinking water. After Mizu fell in, he felt as if his tail was wrapped in something sticky, making it difficult to even swing. As Mizu frowned and tried to find a way out of the predicament, several viewers entered her personal live broadcast room. These audience members are all girls, who like cute little cubs. When they saw the chubby little mermaid on the cover of her live broadcast room, their brains immediately came in. After entering, seeing this scene made them feel heartbroken. What is this crew doing? Mermaid cubs are very fragile, why do they throw them into such waters? Poor child, her tail is wrapped in pollutants and if she doesn't find a way to escape, she will sink. Perhaps the start was too bad, and these girls who were originally planning to leave at a glance stayed behind, constantly barraging. Mizu only has wearable live streaming cameras on her body, and there is also a live streaming aircraft surrounding her. She couldn't see the barrage of the audience in the live broadcast room, so she didn't know anyone was worried about her. Mizu tried her best and found that the water in this lake was not clean. Unless she came ashore, she couldn't get rid of the pollutants. Without continuing to clean up the pollutants on her body, she decided to find a place first, get some clean water, and then find a way to clean her body. After swimming half a circle along the lake, she saw a deep pit not far from the water surface. The size and depth of the pit are almost the same as the pool in the Tsu Academy. That's it, wait, it'll be ready soon. She patted her chubby fish tail while speaking. The tip of the tail worked hard to curl up, and a stream of water rose from the lake and poured into the deep pit. After about 8 points full, Mizu stepped back, his chubby paws cheered him on, and then the fish's tail swung vigorously. A classic action of a carp leaping over the dragon gate appeared in the eyes of the Interstellar audience. With a splash, she successfully fell into a deep pit. What is this little guy doing? It's not all dirty water. Do you think the lake is too big? How old is the little guy? He can actually use his natural abilities. Which big family came out of it? Don't laugh, the mermaid cubs from the big family can't even be pampered in time. How could they come out for live streaming? The news upstairs is not very clear. The production team planted a bomb this time. I heard they persuaded several families to send their mischievous children to live stream. They said they were going to stage what kind of interstellar cub transformation story. The audience was barraging with comments, but not long after, bored viewers gradually withdrew from Mizu's live broadcast room. Only the first few girls remained. Mizu brewed in the deep pit for a while, holding her hands in front of her chest and murmuring words in her mouth. In no time, an apple-sized light ball appeared between her hands. She carefully placed the light ball into the sewage in the pit. 10 minutes later, as the pitch-black light ball left the water surface, the sewage in the pit had become clear enough. This purification move is one of the few mermaid skills that Mizuo found on the Starnet. Is it because she was able to use her skills in the live broadcast room? After successfully registering, the program team provided a detailed physical examination according to the agreement, and found that her talent and abilities had been stimulated, but no one taught her, and she has not been able to show them. The dean had a small argument with the doctors in the hospital over this matter. Only Mizu knew that the original mermaid did not have talent. Now that the inner flesh has changed, the powerful shark soul comes with its own attributes, which can easily stimulate talent. But she couldn't tell anyone about this, and even had to search for skills on the internet to cover up her own abilities. After purifying the water in this pit, Mizu's small body couldn't hold on anymore and sank softly underwater. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Pandas are vegetarians. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The source has no content or has errors. Chapter 3. This unlucky luck shouldn't be a standard feature, right? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. This unlucky luck shouldn't be a standard feature, right? Are we going to rebel? It took a little effort to arch out from under Panda's solid body, and Mizu was so angry that her scales exploded. Woo-woo, big sister, I thought you left me and didn't come back. The bear's face was wet, and even the little fat on his body was trembling slightly. Mizu, who was almost furious, suddenly softened her heart and reached out her chubby paws, rubbing Panda's facial hair. Big sister, I'm not the kind of person to leave my little brother and run away on my own. Don't think so recklessly in the future, otherwise I'll beat you up. Aha, I got it. Panda carefully rubbed his head against Mizuo's arm, and then the two little ones heard a loud, gurgling sound. Mizu lowered her eyes and looked at Panda's soft belly, sighing. You can eat a few wild fruits first, and when the rain stops, I'll barbecue for you to eat. Upon hearing the words, barbecue, Panda's eyes lit up and the fur on her forehead moved in the wind. Big sister, don't you think it's strange for me to eat meat? What's strange? Your pandas are omnivorous and it's not normal for them to eat meat. Mizu blurted out without even thinking, completely unaware that the audience in the live broadcast room would be barraging wildly with her words. Isn't this little mermaid without common sense? How could pandas eat meat? After all, she's still young, not even 5 years old, maybe she hasn't studied before. After all, it was from the Tsu Academy, but basic education is not enough. My baby is only 3 years old and knows that pandas are vegetarian. What superiority is being showcased upstairs? If possible, who would be willing to grow up in a charity institution? Look at your face, your baby's future is worrying. Although everyone thinks Mizu is wrong, based on her background and age, most viewers choose to understand her lack of common sense, but a small number of viewers speak ill of her and become angry in a second. The argument in the live broadcast room did not affect Mizu. She gave all the wild fruits she brought back to Panda. Panda looked at Mizu in disbelief, took a bite, and even glanced at Big Sister's head with her small eyes. On the way back, Mizu nibbled on a fruit and barely filled his stomach. After all, mermaids are carnivorous species, and occasionally eating water plants is just a side dish. In the morning, the rain stopped. Panda had enough to eat and drink, and his mind also turned around. Big sister, I think there's something wrong. He lay on the ground, his chin resting on his front legs, and frowned as he looked out at the slightly blue sky. Before I came, my older brother and sister told me that within 3 hours of our landing, the production team would release the first batch of supplies, but I haven't seen the signal from the production team yet. Do you think they have forgotten about us? Mizu didn't pay attention to this, and when she heard his words, she wasn't too emotional, but the audience in the live broadcast room was different. 3 seconds later, everyone in the live broadcast room jumped up. I just feel like something's wrong. It's been almost 10 hours since they landed, right? Where are the supplies? Before, I thought it was advertising, but they didn't go and get it themselves. So, they didn't even advertise. What exactly is the production team doing? Previously, they dropped the mermaid into a polluted water source, but now they don't provide supplies directly. Are they planning to kill someone? Even Spitfire and Blackie felt that the operation of the program team was a bit outrageous. At this moment, the audience in the live broadcast rooms of Mizu and Panda began to unite with the program team. The production team is currently in a very big position. They can't connect with the four cubs at all. That is to say, from the moment of landing, the four cubs in this area are in a disconnected state, able to send signals to the outside world unilaterally, but unable to enter. What they can do now is to use live broadcast equipment to locate and send people into this area to pick them up. The team responsible for early exploration is carrying out other tasks and cannot return for a while. They were given a contact information and asked the program team to negotiate with them and ask the other party to take action to solve the problem. Until now, no one has been able to reach out, and the director's already scarce hair has almost completely fallen out, with a dense layer of blood streaking in his eyes. Director, Luo, the Roman family called. The director's trembling hand answered the video call from the Roman family. Mizu doesn't know much about live streaming and doesn't worry too much about material delivery. It's okay, even if they don't advertise, we can still find food on our own. Little Chubby, when the rain stops, we'll leave here first. Panda is timid, but Mizu is bold and cunning. There is a shortage of food here, and the water source cannot be used. We need to change places. Mizu's tail tip teased the small puddle outside the cave, her tone firm. Did you find anything else when you came over? No, I think I saw some wild beasts going to the other side. They're big, and I'm afraid. Little Chubby, you're really cowardly. But it's okay, big sister, you're wearing a hood. Mizu patted her small chest and chest, fearless. We can't defeat the enemy, we can still use our wits. Panda Cub Panda looked into Mizu's eyes, shining brightly as if seeing stars. What does big sister say? What do I do? The sky has cleared up, and the sun is hanging above the trees. After the heavy rain, there were many puddles on the ground. Mizu made a net bag out of vines, then put an effort to make a big water ball to wrap himself up, and then asked Panda to use the net bag to hold the water ball and walk on his back. Panda is a road-crazy kid, and when he reaches the forest, he can't distinguish between the southeast, northwest, and north. Mizu sighed, closed her eyes, and sensed the humidity in the air. The water source here cannot be used, and the beasts must need to find another water source, so following the density of water should be able to find another water source. The two little ones walked fearlessly on the road, completely unaware of what they would face ahead. On the other side of the production team, watching the direction they were heading, they exploded. Find a way, I'll ask you to find a way to stop them from walking that way. The director's chubby body began to tremble, propping up the table and his eyes turning even redder. The energy value of the space over there is still rising, and there is a possibility of spatial cracks at any time. If they are swallowed up under the public's eyelids, I don't need to say, you also know what you will face. Not only is the director on the brink of collapse, but the audience in the 4 live broadcast rooms is also boiling. In a very short period of time, the audience of the 4 live broadcast rooms exceeded 10,000, 100,000 million. Various related topics have also spread, and even hot searches on StarNet have brought up related topics, with the word explosive added. Except for Mizu, who had no background, the families of the other 3 cubs began to contact the program team. Especially the parents of the Roman family's cubs stormed into the director's office, holding the director's collar and raging with anger. If something happens to my child, I will make you unable to survive or die. The director's lips trembled as he didn't respond when his subordinates suddenly shouted. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Look, beautiful Parabolic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Look, beautiful Parabolic, director, over here, there's a space crack. The director almost ran out of his wits, broke free from the hands of Cairo's parents, and rushed to the surveillance screen, sweating profusely. There were no figures of the little cubs in that scene, but a faint spatial distortion was completely captured by a fixed camera. This camera was pre-arranged. There are thousands of such cameras, distributed in relatively dangerous places. The purpose is to monitor the surrounding environment and drive away any creatures that pose a significant threat to the offspring in advance. Calculate how far the two little cubs are from here. The romance family pushed aside the director, issued instructions directly, and simultaneously dialed a video number. Mizu and Panda were unaware that they were heading towards danger. They walked and chatted, occasionally stopping to pick a fruit to eat. With Mizu's company, even the timid Panda was not so afraid. What are my innate skills? I only know barbaric collision, I can't learn anything else, I'm so stupid. Panda lowered her head in frustration and walked slowly with a big water ball on her back. Hearing the inferiority complex in the younger brother's heart, Mizu Xiaoqiao's eyebrows perked up. Are you still young? Besides, your skill is not bad either. If you practice this skill well, just drive a tank over and crush the enemy. For the powerful eastern shark, absolute force can ignore everything. A skill that has been practiced to the extreme can be reduced 10 times in one go. But my brothers and sisters all said that I was stupid and could not even master the simplest skills. Don't pay attention to them. Next time they talk, you can just rush over and make sure they don't even have a chance to use their skills. That's it. Panda tilted his head and imagined the scene, his eyes suddenly lit up. Okay, big sister, then I'll just practice this. The bulky little body has become much lighter and can almost be considered as jogging forward. Mizu felt the excitement of her little brother, her big eyes narrowed, and the corners of her mouth curved slightly. After walking for over an hour, Wanda was exhausted and found a flat spot to stop, holding the big water ball in his arms and resting. Mizu glanced at the little brother who couldn't stop sticking out his tongue, worked hard to gather the moisture in the air, ball it up, and deliver it to Panda's mouth. Panda opened his mouth and took the small water ball into his mouth, feeling the moisture and contentedly squinting his small eyes, shaking his head and head. Mi is propped up on the wall of the big water ball, looking left and right. Little chubby, wait for me here, I'll go find something to eat for you. Consciously shouldering the burden of feeding his little brother, Mizu planned to break through the water ball and jump around. Don't worry, there's nothing to eat here. I can still persevere. Panda licked his nose, tried to stand up, carried the water ball on his back, and continued walking forward. Panda had just walked a few meters when Mizu patted the water ball. Wait, turn left and I can hear the sound of water flowing. Following Mizu's guidance, the two of them arrived at the edge of a small stream. This stream is very shallow, only slightly above Panda's knee. Mizu broke through the water ball, immersed his tail in the water, and let out a contented long sigh. Suddenly, her ear fins moved and her tail gave a fierce pat, causing the stream to scatter and revealing 3 almost transparent small fish. Before the small fish could fall into the water, 3 small water balls had successfully trapped them. Mizu had never eaten this kind of fish before. She picked up one of the small water balls and looked at it. She blinked and squeezed it, then viciously bit off the lower half of the small fish. The fish meat is surprisingly delicious. A fish with a palm length barely calmed Mizu's hunger, and she generously shared the rest with Panda. I don't know how to eat fish. Panda likes to eat meat, but he always eats cooked meat and has never touched raw food. Try it, it's very delicious. Mizu's chubby claws suddenly became sharp, and he carefully tore off a piece of fish meat and handed it to Panda, gesturing for him to taste it before speaking. Panda gave herself half a day of psychological construction, with her eyes closed and her heart wide open. Ha! Shocked by the fresh and sweet taste. Panda's small eyes widened in a circle. Eat well. Mizu smiled and bent her eyes, handing over the rest. Eat, I'll grab it after finishing. She may find it a bit difficult to find food on land, but in water, isn't that what she raised? While Mizu and Panda were happily eating fish, some viewers in their live broadcast room raised questions. Ladies and gentlemen, take a good look, I'm not mistaken. How do I think this kind of fish looks like a cold water fish that can sell for 100 stars? You didn't read it wrong, I also discovered it. Didn't wild Lingshui fish say they were going extinct? The audience, who were originally angrily attacking the program team, were instantly distracted. They took screenshots to analyze whether the transparent little fish was the kind of cool water fish they knew. I am a student from the Department of Animal Husbandry and Breeding at First Star University. Just now, I sent the picture to my supervisor. The supervisor said it was a cold water fish and scolded me, saying that I couldn't even distinguish it and would deduct my credits. When I told him it was a wild cold water fish, my supervisor exclaimed that it was impossible. You said, is there a possibility that this is actually food that the program team has put on? I am not satisfied with the terrestrial species, as we all know, pandas do not eat fish. Don't wash the floor for the production team. As we all know, artificially raised cold water fish cannot survive in the wild. For a moment, the audience in the live broadcast room started arguing again. The second hot search appears. Can artificially bred cool water fish survive in wild waters? With 2 hot searches that have gone viral, the number of viewers in the live broadcast rooms of Panda and Me continues to rise. Unable to control the arguments among the audience in the live broadcast room, Mizu and Panda finally had their stomachs full and took a nap before deciding to continue on their journey. Although this stream can provide food, it is not very suitable for Wanda, and the terrain here is low-lying. If it rains again, they don't even have a place to take shelter. Mizu doesn't mind, but she feels like she's a big sister and needs to cover up Wanda, so she has to continue moving forward and find a suitable place to spend the night. After finishing her meal, Mizu's physical strength recovered significantly, and she vaguely felt that her strength had also slightly recovered, even the condensed water ball was larger than before. Climbing up a small earthen slope, Panda tiptoed up and picked up a big tree to look into the distance. Big sister, it seems like there's a lake ahead. Mizu also confirmed Panda's discovery from the abundant water vapor in the air. The 2 little ones were excited and accelerated their actions. Just 2 minutes after they left Xiaoda Slope, there was a slight spatial distortion where Wanda had stood before. The large tree next to it was abruptly cut off in part, and even a trunk disappeared without a trace. The 2 little ones, who had never noticed the danger approaching, rushed down the soil slope in a rolling manner. A beautiful aerial parabola, Mizu with her water ball, plunged into the lake. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Now, have you calmed down? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Now, have you calmed down, Yohaha? The clear and bottomless lake welcomed the wild behavior of the mermaid, and Panda also rolled to the shore, being gently pushed back by the lake water. Big sister, look, there's a big fish. Mizu popped her head out of the water and followed Panda's guidance to look over. A large fish of similar size to her, more streamlined, was showing its teeth towards them. A mere aquarium, dare to provoke me and seek death. Mizu charged forward with great momentum. Her slightly second-tier words, when heard by the Interstellar audience, only showed a cute and charming tone, making people give a knowing smile. No one would take these words seriously. After all, the impression that mermaids are very delicate is imprinted in the hearts of all interstellar beings. Occasionally, there are less delicate mermaids because their genes are mixed with those of other races. Mizu's chubby figure was tossing with the big fish in the water, and on the shore, Panda held 2 meat claws to cheer on the big sister's head. At the corner between the woods and rocks not far from the lake, a small head popped out. Dark golden fur, with a cursive king character on the forehead, it looks like a cerebellar axe. Just different from an ordinary cerebellar axe, this little thing has 2 soft wings on its shoulder blade, which looks like stealing chicken wings from a restaurant and putting them on its back. The cerebellar axe hasn't eaten any food for a long time. He guarded the lake but couldn't catch any fish, so he could only meow out of hunger. I had already endured nausea and nibbled on the grass roots, barely falling asleep when suddenly I heard someone talking and the lake water hitting the rocks on the shore. He looked quietly and couldn't help but drool. What a fat fish. The hungry and green-eyed cerebellar axe completely ignored Mizu's messy and long curly head, only seeing her chubby and fleshy fish tail. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 or 4 steps. The cerebellar axe patted the cat's paw and approached the shore, making a standard hunting posture. Mizu successfully scratched and killed the big fish, and after a lot of effort, he dragged the fish from the bottom to the shore, intending to share a delicious meal with his younger brother, Panda Mimi. As soon as he landed, half of his head popped out and was forcefully pressed down on the water by the black shadow rushing towards him in the air. Which harmless guy is plotting against me? Mizu was furious and the fish's tails slapped wildly. The audience in the live broadcast room laughed heartily, and some even sprayed food and drink directly onto the screen. Ha ha ha, it's too cola. I'm afraid this brainless axe is not a silly one. Look at my obedient daughter's silly little face. Surprisingly, a small brain axe fell from the sky. Hurry up and beat him to death with one tail. Oh no, cats eat fish. Can the cerebellar axe eat mermaids? It feels like the cerebellar axe is so hungry that it can swallow stones. Unlike the audience in the cerebellar axe live broadcast room who were filmed feeling dizzy and disoriented, especially the viewers in the Wanda live broadcast room who were bystanders, they laughed directly and then called on their friends to watch the mermaid battle against the cerebellar axe. The audience, who had been paying attention to whether the 4 little cubs would encounter danger a moment ago, forgot about the impending danger and only laughed heartily. Panda's reaction was a bit slow, but he is a particularly sincere child. Seeing her elder sister's head being bullied by the heavenly descending brain axe, Panda was rarely angered. She landed on all fours and raised her round head with a "oh" sound. Without saying a word, she made a savage charge and charged towards the brain axe. Anthony had not yet recovered from Mimi's tail attack when he was directly knocked off by Panda, creating a parabolic trajectory and falling into the water with a gurgling sound. He. Panda's paws began to tremble. I didn't mean to drown him. Panda burst into tears and said, "Big sister, will the police uncle kill me?" Mizu comforted and casually touched Panda's arm, and with a flick of her tail, she rushed towards the figure that had sunk into her cerebellar axe. 3 minutes later, Mizu dragged his cerebellar axe onto the shore, but the other party drank a lot of water and rolled their eyes unconscious. Panda, you press his stomach. Mizu was exhausted, and this cerebellar axe didn't look very impressive. It was heavy, and her arms were sore. Panda obediently threw himself directly onto the cerebellar axe, and with a heavy pressure from his small body, the cerebellar axe opened its mouth and sprayed a fountain. The audience who stayed in the cerebellar axe live broadcast room seemed to feel the weight pressure from Panda, and some viewers unconsciously touched their backs, always feeling that they could hear the happy moan of their spine in the next moment. Anthony fainted quickly and woke up quickly. I started gesturing before I even opened my eyes. The cerebellar axe turned over and stood up, looking up fiercely at the tiger howling in the mountains and forests, but in reality, everyone only heard a milky meow meow. Mizu rested for a while, and as soon as she pulled the big fish out of the water again, she heard the fluffy and wet fur all over her body throwing wild at her. The power of the shark is inviolable. Before Mizu could get angry, Panda yelled at the cerebellar axe first. Bullying my elder sister is bullying Wanda. Panda can be beaten, anyway, his skin is thick. Mizu cannot be scolded. She is a big sister who combines beauty and wisdom. Anthony shook his head and looked at the panda cub roaring at him, his eyes wide open. You! A vegetarian orc, dare to shout at me. It's upside down. Anthony's eyes were tinged with faint crimson blood, his mouth widened, and he rushed towards Panda without hesitation. Panda is indeed not good at fighting. In the fight with Anthony, apart from colliding, he can only be passively torn and twisted. The bitten panda cub, although tearful, still stood in front of Mizu to protect her. Mi's chubby face turned cold, and after Panda was bitten and bleeding again, she opened her mouth and let out a sharp scream. The two furry figures in the fight were stunned for a moment, and there was a moment of unconsciousness. Ah, my daughter is so amazing. She has already mastered her second skill at such a young age. Good job, male orcs should be like this. Protecting females and the weak is our responsibility. This cerebellar axe is the mischievous and cruel little orc of the Roman family, as rumored, a spoiled and cruel little brat. What's going on upstairs? He's still a cub, how can he be called cruel? Hee, upstairs is the navy of the stepwife of the Roman family. Everyone knows how the stepwife rose to power, and the cruelty of her offspring is not what we said, nor was it revealed by the people of the Roman family themselves. The malicious words and phrases in the live broadcast room made Mrs. Roman, who was concerned about her son in front of the screen, burst into tears. Let's get a divorce. Let me take Anthony out of this house, okay? If this continues, he will be ruined. Mrs. Roman covered her face with both hands and cried uncontrollably. As Mr. Roman pursed his lips and supported his wife's shoulder, unsure of how to comfort her, Mia moved. She reached out her hand and a ball of water appeared in front of her, followed closely by the ball and wrapped around Anthony's head, who was stunned. The water ball that just wrapped around Anthony's hair head instantly froze into ice under Mizu's operation. So, under the sunshine, a large crystal ball with colorful lights was pinned onto Anthony's shoulder. The entire live broadcast room was so quiet that I couldn't even hear my breathing. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. The tip of the iceberg about the mermaid. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. The tip of the iceberg about the mermaid. Now, you give it to me, just calm down. Mi is standing in the water, with her chubby hands on her hips. With a height of 80 centimeters, she has an aura of 8 meters. Hope to come over, be careful of your wound. Healing is a natural talent of mermaids, and similar healing techniques are also found in the water spells that Eastern mermaids excel at. A faint green light rose from the lake's surface, condensed into a ball the size of a bird's egg, and then sank into Panda's fur. Big sister, I don't hurt anymore. Panda shook his head, his face covered in hair that couldn't conceal his happiness. The cerebellar axe couldn't hold on to the heavy crystal head, and with a snap, it fell to the ground, without even a crack on the big head. Mizu swaggered over and bent down to look at Anthony lying on his side. If you calm down, just open your paws. Anthony widened his eyes in the crystal ball, with 2 holes in his nostrils for him to breathe. He looked particularly miserable and wanted to laugh. However, the audience in the live broadcast room is only concerned about one issue at this moment. Who can wake me up? This is really a mermaid skill. Even a powerful water system warrior would need a lot of time to condense such a large ice hockey ball, right? Did she take 2 seconds or 1 second? She actually remembered to open a breathing hole. Mom asked me why I was kneeling to watch the live broadcast. Friends and family, I just want to know, who is willing to throw such a powerful mermaid cub into a charity institution? Can I apply for adoption? Upstairs, you're already late. I just went to submit my adoption application, take a look at my sequence number. 297547. Anthony felt unwilling, but he had no other choice. The cat's paw extended, and when the little mermaid pinched it, it consciously retracted the tip of its paw. Next to her, Panda seemed to feel a hint of threat and squeezed over, stuffing her bare paws into the little hand of the elder sister's head. This scene looks like 3 cubs folding their hands together and shouting for help. Anthony, who was trapped in his crystal head, had never had such an experience before. The crimson color in his eyes dissipated, but he stared at the 3 small claws stacked together and couldn't move his eyes. The crystal ball dissipated into the air like bubbles, and Anthony couldn't control himself. He lifted his paw and scratched it. With a loud bang, the bubble burst and completely dissipated. Anthony tilted his head and squatted there, looking at the empty sky without knowing what he was thinking. "Anthony, come here." The voice of the elder sister's head was sweet and soft, as if wrapped in honey when she wasn't angry. Anthony's tail has its own consciousness, swaying happily from side to side. "This is yours, this is Wanda's. Let's make do for it now. When we go back, I'll replace it with a metal chain for you. A necklace woven from the strongest stems of aquatic plants, with a crystal ball the size of a finger hanging below, and a shiny tooth inside. This is our spoils of war. According to the rules, wearing its sharpest part on our bodies will give us courage. Of course, the most important thing is that if we get lost, we can still connect with each other through this thing. A big fish has many teeth, but Mizu leaves behind the sharpest 4. She heard Anthony say that there would be 4 cubs in an area, and now the 3 of them have gathered together. Next, they need to find the 4th one. You input your energy bit by bit, see? It will light up. Then I input here, and the tip of my teeth will turn towards me. Anthony, give it a try." Anthony and Panda exchanged a glance, and their cerebellar axes became excited. They lifted their claws and touched the crystal ball. The ball emitted a sparkling white light, and after the teeth inside turned around, they pointed towards Mizu. "But big sister, what if we're not all in the same place?" "It will point to your closest partner. Only when both balls emit light will it give an indication." Mizumi casually divided the necklace. The 3 of them don't know, because of this, not to mention the live broadcast room, the entire star network is boiling again. The video that caused all of this was marked with 3 flame symbols and landed at the top of the popular search list on Starnet. The most heated topic online is about Mizu. Everyone is doubting whether she is a real mermaid, and whether her background from the Tsuyu Academy is real. After all, such a young and talented child, how could a normal family be willing to abandon them? Some people have pushed back from the already disclosed information of Mizu and discovered a traffic accident report 4 years ago, which mentioned a mermaid cub who was overly frightened and lost normal reaction. According to this report, without much splashing, a journalist went to investigate and confirmed that Mizu was the cub rescued in a traffic accident that year. But the problem came, according to our investigation, it was found that this child did not register for birth on the Star Network. Moreover, no one knows how she was brought onto the crashed spaceship. When she was discovered, she lay so quietly in her suitcase that the Star Police initially thought she was a toy with the latest technology. The journalist who wrote this report also provided a picture. The elbow-long mermaid cub is wrapped in an artificial water membrane ball and stuffed into a portable suitcase. The cub in the photo is staring blankly at the camera with big eyes open. Although there have been some significant changes over the past 4 years, it can still be seen that this is the vibrant baby period of Miss Me in the live broadcast room. According to our subsequent investigation, it was found that Mizu received relatively good care at the Tsuyu home, but her child's development has been problematic and she has not made any sound for 4 years. The staff of the Tsuyu home speculate that it may be because of this reason that she was abandoned. But about 10 days before the audition for this program, Mizu suddenly fell ill and woke up to be almost a normal child. We will continue to track and report on how this child was abandoned and how she will be placed in the future. The outside world is full of chaos and disturbance, and the 3 little ones have no idea at all. After dividing the big fish and eating it, they found a temporary overnight spot under Anthony's leadership. The cave is much larger than the previous one. Anthony and Panda can sleep alone and have a spacious activity space. Mizu doesn't like to stay on the shore for a long time. Since there is no shortage of food and water here, they plan to stay and rest for a while before finding another lonely companion. After tidying up her scales, Mizu sat on a stone by the shore, her tail tip hanging in the water, her hands propped back, and she looked up at the sky. The night sky is beautiful, with twinkling stars and occasional shooting stars crossing the sky. Mermaids are not good at singing, but mermaids are born singers. Miyu didn't know if it was the instinct of her body. In such a dark night, she couldn't help but stretch her singing voice. The air suddenly froze. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Mermaids sing well, don't sing anymore. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Mermaids sing well, don't sing anymore. Mom asked me why I was kneeling to watch the live broadcast because I had already been scared to pee. Tell me, is this a mermaid singing? They sing for money, my daughter sings for life. Help your forehead cry. JPG, I thought I could enjoy the beautiful singing of mermaids, so I opened a 360-degree full surround immersive cinema, and my neighbor directly reported my family's murder. Not to mention the audience in the live broadcast room, even Panda and Anthony in the cave instantly exploded. After singing a line, Miyu was also scared by herself, and her face stiffened on the stone with confusion. Ha ha ha, look at my daughter's little face, she's scared herself, right? What a lovely mermaid cub. But in the future, just talk directly. Don't sing, I'm afraid my old mother can't handle this blow. The live broadcast audience's barrage is so thick that it can cover the screen. Director, there was a sudden anomaly in the spatial energy just now. It was while Miyu was singing. The crew members responsible for monitoring discovered abnormalities and quickly reported them. He reported to the director, but his eyes were on the person from the Roman family next to him. On the monitoring instrument, while Mizu was singing just now, the originally violent energy peaks and valleys seemed to have been flattened by something, and a smooth straight line appeared for a few seconds. The members of the production team don't know what this means, but the Romance family has served in the Starfleet for many years and has an extremely keen sense of these seemingly accidental anomalies. Do you mean that this little mermaid may still have spatial attributes? Roman's little uncle, Kinu, the commander of the 3rd Corps of the Starcraft First Army, frowned. As is well known, mermaids only have water attributes and have never developed other attributes. Even mixed-race mermaids only differ in physical strength. A young man with white hair next to him poked his chin and raised his hand. Captain, I have noticed something. He called up a page and placed it on the public screen. This is what I found. The genetic screening for the mermaid was done by the staff of the Interstellar Parenting Agency at that time. It was to determine her identity, but unfortunately, no suitable genetic target was found in the gene bank. Later, she had to be sent to a nursing home as a last resort. He circled several points with a marker pen. Look at these gene fragments, do you feel familiar? 10 years ago, a private research institute announced that they had captured the first layer of the ancient gene library's gene map. At that time, several map fragments were also taken and published together with the paper. Among them, there are 3 aquatic organisms. Guess how many I found in Miyu's gene map? What do you mean? The mermaid is artificially created. No, she should be a naturally bred mermaid, but she shouldn't have been born naturally in a normal environment. I suspect that she was forcibly modified and injected with gene fragments that didn't belong to her during embryonic formation, which is why she is different from other mermaids. The young man with white hair turned his head to look at the little mermaid in the live broadcast room. The other person's lively and bright big eyes were brighter than the stars in the sky. There is a huge secret hidden inside her, whether it's a gospel or a nightmare. Keanu took a deep breath, crossed his fingers and propped his head for a moment, thinking before deciding to hide this discovery. I will first visit the director of the First Star Domain Life Research Institute, and then make a decision later. The young man with white hair shrugged his shoulders and looked indifferent. I just stumbled upon it by chance. Don't worry, Captain. I won't say one more word to anyone else. The other few people present were also trusted subordinates of Kinu, and they all swore not to say things they shouldn't say. Miyu failed her first singing attempt and was angry with herself. She made a wild run underwater and even pulled out several large river clams that were hidden deep. After eating fish, Anthony's stamina recovered significantly. He wanted to go hunting instead of eating clams. But you're so young, what can you hunt for? There are no smaller beasts here than you. With Pandas' sincere words, Anthony was so angry that he let out a whimper and kept patting the ground with his paws. You'd better save some effort. No matter how hard you hit the ground, there's nothing to eat. If you're tired, you'll have to find something to feed you, big sister. Panda's disdainful little gaze rudely brushed over Anthony's furry little body. Looking at the twisting and swaying of Wanda's big fart in front of him, Anthony was furious from the bottom of his heart and rushed forward, biting. Not biting, it was all fluff. Mizu, who emerged from the water, sighed with exhaustion as she saw the two little brothers rolling together again on the shore. Just as she was about to speak, her ear fins suddenly opened and felt a threat. She slammed her chubby tail into the water, her body soaring into the air, carrying a series of water droplets. And some of the water droplets suddenly disappeared at a certain location. The live broadcast camera faithfully recorded this scene. Mizu, who had fallen heavily into the water, also saw it, and her intuition made her dive into the water with a sudden thrust, leaving the area far away. You two go to the left, hurry up. Before diving into the water, she hadn't forgotten to greet the two little brothers who had rolled into a ball. Panda's perception is a bit sluggish, but Anthony is a winged tiger and can sense the flow of air. When Mizu made a sound, he also looked cautiously at the water surface. At the moment when Mizu fell, Anthony bit onto Panda's ear and desperately dragged him back. Three little ones crawled and ran to the northeast of the lake, where there was a stone mountain, a forest next to it, and a small stream with clear water flowing into the lake. Just now, what was that? Panda asked with lingering palpitations, his fleshy little body still trembling slightly. Mizu didn't know, but she felt that it was very dangerous, and even during her heyday, she didn't dare to touch it easily. It's a spatial crack. Anthony lowered his head and sniffed the ground. Damn it, how could there be a spatial crack here? Didn't the production team check it before? Even though Anthony was young, he was from a famous family after all, and had received preschool education from a very young age. Before he came, his mother told him a lot of precautions, including various possible dangers. What should we do now? I don't know, we don't know how large the unstable space really is, nor do we know where they will appear in the next moment. Anthony's eyes started to turn red again, but before he could have a fit, Mizu poured a handful of ice water onto his head. Calm down, Mizu said with a serious expression on her chubby, round face. Tell us all the information you know about spatial cracks, and then we'll find a way to get out of here. Half an hour later, Mizu tilted her head to look at the water surface. So, is this a live broadcast accident? In other words, the audience in the live broadcast room knows the danger we are facing, right? Then I believe they must have sent someone to find us. What they can do now is to protect themselves. But how can we protect ourselves? Also, it's okay for the three of us to be together. Isn't there another cub? Can he already? Panda's tears rushed down. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. What do you think about diving compared to mermaids? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. What do you think about diving compared to mermaids? That's a good question. Mizu felt that they couldn't continue to stay here anymore. There were spatial cracks in this area, full of uncertain dangers. They three little ones must leave. Immediately. Immediately. Mizu's mobility is unparalleled. The three little ones don't have much luggage to pack, it's time for a spontaneous trip. As usual, Panda carried her elder sister's head behind her back, and Anthony took on the vanguard position this time. The three little ones did not procrastinate at all, which made the audience in the live broadcast room breathe a sigh of relief. Perhaps they came here in the dark to save Anthony. This time leaving, San Xiaoju's direction of advance is exactly away from the danger zone of spatial turbulence. After walking for a long time without taking a break, I finally found a suitable place to camp in the afternoon. There is a natural cave next to it, as well as a small waterfall and a deep pool of about 15 or 16 square meters. The location of the cave is also very good, and there is a stone platform at the entrance, which is very suitable for Panda and Anthony to sunbathe on it. Mizu, I think this is pretty good. If there's no problem, let's stop here. I and Panda can go around and search for another cub. Anthony bent down and stretched lazily before obediently seeking the opinion of the elder sister. He didn't have a thick skin and was embarrassed to keep calling him big sister. Miyu doesn't care about this either, as long as she knows they are younger brothers. Hunting still requires Anthony. Although this cerebellar axe is easy to climb, under normal circumstances, his ability completely surpasses that of his peers. Mizu was not busy looking for food, she found a place under the deep pool where energy fluctuations were very strong. But this kind of energy fluctuation is different from the disordered spatial energy fluctuation before, it is very stable and hidden. The depth of this deep pool is beyond the reach of ordinary people. Even with high-tech assistive equipment, it protects the diver while isolating the hidden energy fluctuations during the diving process. The team that came to explore before probably only conducted a survey on the shore with instruments. Mizu continued to walk down with her small tail swaying, feeling the energy concentration gradually increasing. She didn't even know how long she had been diving, but finally she discovered an unusual place. She didn't feel anything underwater, but her camera had already stopped working and entered self-protection mode. The audience in her live broadcast room looked at the pitch-black screen in front of them and began making frantic phone calls to the production team. After troubleshooting the technical issue, the staff of the production team issued a notice explaining that the camera automatically stopped working because the depth at which Mizuo was diving had exceeded the pressure limit for their equipment to operate normally. The unconvinced audience cursed the production team for being stingy and not even using good equipment, while staring at the black screen, worried and unable to eat or sleep. Mizu didn't know how many people outside were worried about her, and now she was so excited that she wanted to dance in the water. Unexpectedly, beneath this seemingly unremarkable small pool, there is even such a pure concentration of water-based spirit stones. Looking at the water spirit stone in front of her, which was a circle larger than her head, Miyu didn't hesitate to put her chubby paw on it. A few minutes later, she belched and withdrew her hand, still unsatisfied. And that water spirit stone only dimmed a little bit. With enough spiritual power added, Mizu is now able to open up the space that each shark comes with. This space has no land, flowers, plants, or trees, and is simply a storage space, refined by the shark people using their shark beads. Of course, Mizu's small body does not have any shark beads, but once the shark beads are refined, they are compatible with the soul. With enough spiritual power, she can open this space to store important items. Without hesitation, he threw the large spiritual stone into the space, collected the surrounding fine spiritual stones, wrapped them in water balls, and began his journey back. Got it, got the picture. Where did my obedient daughter go to play? If she does this again next time, Mom will hit herself. Upstairs said the most malicious words in the most ferocious tone. I'm different. I just knelt down and hugged my daughter, not allowing her to go out. Even if I want to go out, I have to take my mother with me. Upstairs, it's shameless. Based on your personal information, it's clear that you're a picky guy, even your mom. Unconvinced, my male mother is also a mother. You cannot deprive me of the right to be a mother. At that moment, the barrage in the live broadcast room was blank for 3 seconds. Miyu swam to the shore holding a water ball. Unfortunately, due to physical limitations, she is unable to leave the water for a long time and cannot move on land without water. Of course, she could wrap herself in a water ball, but that would be a bit foolish, without a big sister's face. Seeing Mizu swimming over, the two furry farts, who were struggling to play, leaned in together. Mizu, what is this? Anthony saw the spirit stone inside the water ball at a glance. However, It seems that he cannot feel the energy fluctuations inside and only treats it as a beautiful stone. Mizu tilted her head and then turned her gaze to Panda, and the cute little brother also looked back at her. Alright, she knows. No one in the interstellar space has ever used the spirit stone. She has seen popular energy supplements nowadays, commonly known as energy bars, but in fact, a considerable part of them are similar to thicker card designs. There is a numerical identification on the card to confirm how much energy is stored inside. Live streaming of cub survival does not provide energy supply, but rather focuses on cultivating cubs to use their instincts to fight and develop their potential. So far, most of the cubs have learned to use their innate skills to help survive, but a small number of cubs cannot withstand the pressure and choose to quit. Out of 10,000 cubs, there are still approximately 8 to 9,000 so far. A 1/10 elimination rate has already emerged. In addition to Kaimi and the three of them, there are also a few top-notch cubs who have already gained their own fans and are gradually gaining popularity. Due to their previous hot search, Mizu and his team have attracted a lot of attention, but after all, these three young children are not focused on attracting popularity at all, and they cannot interact with the audience in the live broadcast room, so their popularity has slightly decreased in the past 2 days. Mizu didn't care about those things. She thought of a reason and asked Panda, who had a strong load-bearing ability, to help her put away these broken spirit stones. Panda looked at the newly woven vine bag, like a baby weighing 200 or 300 pounds, constantly walking back and forth in front of Anthony, always placing the bag where Anthony could see it. The stone hammer is a careful machine bear. Unfortunately, the mermaid did not know how to control fire, nor did Panda and Anthony. The three little ones could only barely eat a meal of raw food. Eating raw fish is okay, but raw animal meat is too fishy. Mizu and Panda vomited while eating, and in the end, Anthony basically solved the small beast alone. Panda is fine, he can eat fruits to fill his stomach, but rice is not happy without meat. Eating grass has never been in her recipe. After eating another meal of raw meat, Mizu couldn't bear it anymore. She decided to learn from the ancients and start a fire by drilling into wood. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Sky Leakage, Dirty Things Climbing Up. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Sky Leakage, Dirty Things Climbing Up. Three small-brained cucumbers gathered together and watched as Mizu, with a solemn expression, rubbed a wooden stick back and forth on a piece of wood. Mizu, can this really make a fire? Anthony's long tail wrapped around his 4 little feet, and his furry face was filled with undeniable suspicion. Panda farted. Sitting on the ground, he took out a fruit and took a bite, then scratched his soft belly, not daring to speak. Mizu's hands were hurting from rubbing, but she didn't produce any sparks. Her head was about to burst into flames. Just as she was making her final decision in anger, a puff of smoke came out. Yes, there is Mars. The three little ones looked carefully at the wood, with twinkling stars that were even more dazzling than the most dazzling treasures they had ever seen. Burning, burning. Anthony pressed down on Panda's chubby leg, which was constantly making trouble, and glared fiercely at him. Be quiet, if the fire goes out, I'll kill you. Panda didn't mind Anthony's bad tone at all. He nodded, tightened his chubby legs, covered his mouth with his front paws, and the bear shrank into a ball, revealing only 2 small black bean-like eyes. Anthony's tail was stiff, standing straight behind his butt, afraid that he might fan out the wind and extinguish the fire. Mizu was also very excited, but she had to hold on to the aura of her elder sister's head, and with a slightly trembling little hand, she shook up a dry clump of grass and placed it on top, gently blowing. Under the gaze of 3 pairs of bright eyes, the grass catkins were successfully ignited, and a flame leaping with orange light burst into flames. Watching the movements of the 3 little ones, the audience in the live broadcast instinctively held their breath, fearing that if they were too angry, it would ruin their precious daughter's labor achievements. It wasn't until the flames completely stabilized and were moved to the prepared fire pit that everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Then quickly looked left and right, and let out a chuckle. The director's team is organizing manpower to enter the area for rescue while closely monitoring the live broadcast room of Sanxiaoju. After seeing this behind the scenes, everyone who knew them, including the Tsiyu Academy where Mizu was located, was applauding for them. It seems that I have a lot of luck going forward. There are both meat and vegetables around this place, and when the weather is good, you can go take a bath. The days when the wind can't blow or the rain can't rain, and there are people to accompany and talk to without parents every day, are simply too happy. Nearly 20 days have passed, and there are only over 7,200 young cubs remaining who are still persevering. But Mizuo and the others still haven't found their fourth lost companion. That afternoon, Mizu was resting on a large stone by the shore when suddenly she shrugged her nose and looked up at the sky. Anthony, who was bored grinding his paws in front of the cave, suddenly changed his position, and the small wings on his back flapped weakly, drooping down both sides of his spine. "Miffy, there's going to be a rainstorm." Panda was gnawing on the newly found bamboo shoots, and upon hearing Anthony's words, little Fatty's face stiffened. "Rainstorm? Is the sun still shining?" He looked foolishly at the big sun hanging in the sky, a bit puzzled. But since both the elder sister and the second brother said it was going to rain, it would definitely rain. Panda pondered how much more time he had to move the food back to the cave and stock it up. Anthony has already been promoted to second brother, thanks to his agile physique and powerful combat abilities. Three little ones quickly started packing up their things. The dried firewood needs to be moved in, and there is no shortage of large fruits and wild chickens that Anthony likes. Miu recently found a way to go up the waterfall and found a pond upstream that is neither deep nor shallow, containing many delicious fish that have not yet been pierced. Although small in size, it has a large quantity and abundant energy. Eating 3 noodles a day makes me feel full. The type of fish is not recorded in the Star Atlas, which is equivalent to being the first discovered by Mizuo. Anthony said that according to the rules, Mizumi has the right to name. Miyu is not very interested in this power, but she cannot always say, unknown fish, so she simply called this group of fish, silver fish, based on their silver light in the water. When she was a shark, she had also eaten silver fish, which was completely different from this. But in the end, it was 2 worlds, and she wanted to call it silver fish. Opposing it was ineffective. During this period, the 3 of them made a wooden water pool from the large wood on the mountain and placed it in the middle of the left mountain wall of the cave, which was specifically made for Mizuo as a water bed. The wood is placed horizontally, shaped like a sink, polished very smooth inside, and covered with many beautiful small stones and soft water plants. 2 wooden buckets were placed in the corner, one for water and the other for silver fish. The relatively small cave was expanded by them, and now the 3 little ones won't feel crowded when they move in. Panda also meticulously woven 2 mats with grass stems and soft vines, then spread them with slender silk grass and a piece of animal skin on top, perfect. Anthony's task is to hunt, stockpile enough food for them to eat for several days, and then freeze it with ice cubes in rice to keep it fresh. After they finished their busy work, in the second half of the night, a strong wind indeed began to blow. The strong wind brought heavy moisture, and soon it began to rain lightly. Before I could wait for Sanxiao to fall asleep, the light rain turned into heavy rain, and then the rainstorm poured down. The 3 little ones, who were disturbed by the sound of rain and couldn't sleep, lay side by side, watching as water curtains hung on the edge of the stone slabs specially inserted to block the rain in the cave. Miffy weaved his curly hair into 2 fried dough twists braids, decorated with beautiful small stones and flowers, and looked lovely and beautiful. Panda has been eating and sleeping well lately, and her body size has visibly increased. But the flesh is not white, and under the supervision of Anthony and Mizuo, who train every day, his flesh is no longer as soft as it was originally. The biggest change is still Anthony. The already super streamlined body is even more robust, with even two small wings that are much more powerful and have grown wing feathers. The sound emitted was no longer like a cat's meow, but mixed with a majestic and childish, whining sound. The rice with the smallest change in appearance is undoubtedly the one who bears the responsibility of force among them. With a slap of Miss Miyu's chubby tail, the stone could crack open a few pieces. Most importantly, she can also launch water attacks and create ice hockey balls. This strength has secured the position of her elder sister's head. The changes brought by the rainstorm at midnight are really amazing. The previously clear mountain stream has become turbid, and there are also many wild grass and shrubs wrapped in soil flowing down the water. Even the deep pool has become turbid yellow. After daybreak the next day, the rainstorm turned into heavy rain, which lasted all day. At first, they were worried that the water would rise, but later discovered that this deep pool had mysteries. No matter how many floods entered the deep pool, the water output remained stable and the water level remained stable, which was simply puzzling. This rain lasted for 3 days and 3 nights. On the morning of the fourth day, when Sanshao woke up from his sleep, he found that there was something black on the platform at the entrance of the cave. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Outward Solitude and Inner Gossip. Little Wolf Cub. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. Outward Solitude and Inner Gossip. Little Wolf Cub. The first to be discovered was Anthony. Even if the cerebellar axe cannot go out and do wild things, it will practice skills such as jumping and turning in the cave that are only useful for hunting. With his self-discipline, Xionoxi's reputation on StarNet has changed a lot. Most adults cannot achieve the same level of self-discipline as him, let alone compare him to someone who loves to sleep, and everyone's impression of this diligent child is even better. Previously, the vast majority of people on StarNet had no contact with Anthony, and their impression of him was solely based on hearsay. Now seeing is believing. I feel that although this child has a bit of a temper, he is polite and responsible, not the kind of arrogant young master. Adding to the many rumors of the big family, those who were more lively brainstormed and started a big drama of the wealthy family's struggle for property on their own. Anyway, there are many people in the live broadcast room who support Anthony now. Seeing that he hadn't woken up his buddies and started circling around that thing, these Yun dads and Yun moms were almost scared to pee. Mizu woke up to see Anthony secretly poking, wanting to reach out his claws and tip to touch that lump, so scared that he threw a water ball directly at it. Anthony, who was startled, jumped horizontally and almost fell under the stone platform. He turned his head and saw Miyu staring at him with both hands on his hips, covered in hair. The little one ran back and rubbed against the big sister's head. I just want to see what he is. Looking at Anthony sitting obediently next to him, Mizu restrained himself from teaching him a lesson, but instead turned his gaze to the thing still lying outside. After waking up Panda, who was feeling drowsy, Sanshao only prepared for defense and attack. Miyu casually condensed an ice stick and effortlessly picked up the thing. After flipping it over, the hidden features under the dark fur finally revealed. Ha! Anthony couldn't help but take 2 steps forward, tilted his head to look around, and then cautiously leaned in to sniff. Miyu, he may be our 4th lost companion. Anthony needs to be more knowledgeable and probably guess the other person's identity. I heard my older brother say that the most independent young boy from the wolf family also participated in this terrible program, probably he. The wolf family is a wolf-beast human race. There are many branch families under the entire clan. The cub Anthony mentioned originally came from the golden wolf family, but it was only alienated into a black wolf cub. The overly unique appearance makes the little wolf cub less valued at home. The wolf cub also refused to play and train with his brothers and sisters. He was always independent. He was not bad, but did not fit in with others. But the wolf tribe is a family with a very strict hierarchy, and the members of the entire family are exceptionally united. Having produced such a little cub, it's hard to say that you don't recognize him after being kicked out, causing a group of old wolves to have their heads as big as a fight. The purpose of sending the little black wolf to the program this time is to help him learn unity and cooperation. But so far, none of the old wolves have realized their calculations. After learning that it wasn't a wild beast, Mizu put away the ice stick and asked Panda to bring in the little wolf cub. Such a wet and dirty wolf cub must not be placed directly on the animal skin. Mizu came up with an idea, condensed 2 water balls together, and then threw the little wolf cub into an automatic cleaning mode. After washing, place the little wolf cub on 2 pieces of wood and stand it directly on the fire, leaving a safe distance before starting to bake his fur. Of course, if we didn't keep watching them operate and only focus on the last step, someone would probably complain that the cubs were grilling little wolf cubs. The audience who have been following Little Black Wolf in his live broadcast room finally let go of the long-hanging heart. Although the Little Black Wolf demonstrated far greater strength than its peers when acting alone. For their young age, cooperation is the right choice for survival in the wild. After drying the fur, Panda contributed her own small bed. He, who is honest and enthusiastic, may seem clumsy, but with his gentle and hard-working personality, he has also gained countless fans. Mizu took advantage of the time when the 2 little brothers were tidying up and taking care of the wolf cubs, and cooked a pot of fish soup in a stone pot, adding some collected wild vegetables. She divided the fragrant fish soup into 4 bowls. The most hopeful is Anthony, followed by the little wolf cub in the end. The little wolf cub woke up in a fragrant smell. My limbs were too hungry to support me, so I could only turn my head in a prone position. The one with his back to him is Panda, the one on the left is the cerebellar axe, and the one on the right is the little mermaid sitting in the wooden sink. Are you awake? Can you get up? The little wolf cub exerted some force and before he could stand firm, he lay down again. Then don't move, can Panda help put the fish soup to his mouth? Panda held a stone bowl and approached it with twists and turns, carefully placing the small amount of fish soup in front of the wolf cub. He also pressed his fingertips against the bowl and pushed it under his nose. The little wolf cub was very clever, and he could tell the identities of these little ones at a glance. After hesitating for a second, he lowered his head and licked the fish soup. Mizu didn't give him too much. I don't know how long he was hungry, afraid that eating too much at once would hurt his stomach. After he finished eating, he handed him a delicious piece of grilled meat and put it in a bowl for him to bite. Quickly, after eating a bowl of hot soup and a piece of grilled meat, the little wolf cub regained some strength and took the initiative to approach the fire pit to introduce himself. He doesn't like to interact with people, but that doesn't mean he doesn't understand how to talk. After introducing his identity, he shared his experience of surviving alone these days. I noticed a space gap appeared in the upstream area. In order to avoid it, I accidentally fell into the mountain stream and was washed up here by the water. He doesn't even know how to climb the stone platform himself, so he can only say that he's too lucky. So, this area may not be very stable either. Without caring about anything else, Mizu's focus shifted to the spatial crack mentioned by the little wolf cub earlier. We encountered spatial instability by the lake before, but now we need to find a way to continue transferring and leave this area. Mizu held her chest with one hand and supported her chubby chin with the other, her delicate eyebrows furrowed together. The little wolf cub recognized Anthony and Panda's identities as soon as they met, but he had no idea about the background of the little mermaid's identity, so he kept staring at her curiously. The little wolf cub keenly noticed that both Anthony and Panda seemed to have Mimi as their main bone, which seemed somewhat unbelievable to him. After all, his family still has some dealings with Anthony's family. Although Anthony is not as bad as he is said on the internet, he is definitely not easy to get along with. As for Panda, he has heard the nickname Little Lazy Bear who loves to eat more than once, but similarly, he has also understood Panda's gentle nature. Panda listened to Mizu's words, and he still felt understandable, but what magic does this little mermaid have that will make Anthony obey the command? Perhaps the little wolf cub's gaze was too direct, and Miyu finally couldn't help but stare at him with her hands on her hips. End of this chapter.